The desolate world of Grathix Prime was a barren wasteland scarred by centuries of war and abandonment. Beneath its dark skies and jagged cliffs lay a civilization teetering on the brink of extinction. The Orekans and intelligent Insectoid races thrived in the underground cities they carved into the bedrock, but their bodies were not resilient to the creeping sickness that spread through the air like an invisible predator. It was a plague that devoured them from within, rendering their advanced medical knowledge useless. The Council of Elders gathered in the Grand Chamber of Vexcan to debate their final options. High Chancellor Xarax stood at the center of the dimly lit room, his mandibles clicking nervously as he addressed the council. "We are at the end of our tether. Our brightest minds have fallen. Our young grow weaker by the day. Even the drones that sustain our food production are succumbing." A wave of somber chittering swept through the chamber. Elder Myrin, the oldest and wisest among them, raised a hand to silence the murmurs. "There is one option we have yet to consider," she said. "In the archives of our ancient explorers, there is mention of a species called humans. They possess technologies and methods unlike our own. They are adaptable and resourceful." The chamber erupted in disbelief. Humans were a myth, a distant rumor from the uncharted edges of the galaxy. But Myrin's conviction silenced the skeptics. "We must call for aid," she declared. "The survival of our species depends on it." A small craft was dispatched, carrying a desperate plea for help into the void. Weeks passed with no response. The Orekans began to accept their fate, preparing for the end. Then, against all odds, a ship arrived. Its sleek design and glowing blue engines were unlike anything the Orekans had seen before. Aboard the vessel was a single human. Dr. Elena Marlow stepped onto the cracked surface of Grathix Prime, her boots crunching against the brittle soil. The atmosphere was thin, the air heavy with the stench of decay. Clad in a reinforced environmental suit, she scanned her surroundings with a mixture of awe and dread. Her first encounter with the Orekans was tense. The towering insectoids regarded her with a mix of curiosity and fear. Xarax greeted her on behalf of the council. "You have come in response to our call. Do you believe you can save us?" Elena's expression was determined. "I have studied countless pathogens across the galaxy. Show me you're afflicted, and I will do everything in my power." The journey to the underground city revealed the true extent of the devastation. The once vibrant corridors were now silent, lit only by flickering bioluminescent panels. Rows of Orekans lay in makeshift infirmaries, their exoskeletons dulled and cracked. Elena wasted no time. She set up a laboratory in the heart of the city, using equipment from her ship and salvaging what she could from the Orekans' technology. Hours turned into days as she worked tirelessly, analyzing samples, studying their physiology, and formulating treatments. The plague was unlike anything she had encountered. It was a viral organism that adapted rapidly, rendering conventional antivirals ineffective. It preyed on the Orekans' unique biology, targeting their neural systems and shutting down their vital functions. But Elena refused to give up. Her tenacity inspired the Orekans, who began assisting her in any way they could. They brought her data from their archives, samples from the deepest crevices of their world, and even shared ancient remedies passed down through generations. One day, as Elena pored over her findings, Xarax approached her. "Your efforts are commendable, but our people grow impatient. They doubt that a human can succeed where we have failed." Elena looked up, exhaustion evident in her eyes. "Tell them this: I am not here to fail." Her breakthrough came unexpectedly. While studying the properties of a rare mineral found only on Grathix Prime, she discovered that its crystalline structure could disrupt the virus's ability to replicate. With the help of the Orekans, she synthesized a compound that could be administered through their nutrient systems. The first trial was met with cautious optimism. A young Orekan named Crix was chosen as the initial recipient. Days later, Crix showed signs of improvement. His movements grew steadier, his mandibles regained their sheen, and his strength began to return. Word of the recovery spread like wildfire. Orekans from all corners of the city came forward to receive the treatment. The once quiet corridors were filled with hope and renewed activity. Myrin visited Elena in her laboratory. "You have done what we believed was impossible. You have given us a future." Elena smiled, though her face was pale from exhaustion. "The future is yours to build. But remember, this is only the beginning." As the Orekans celebrated their recovery, Elena prepared to leave. Her mission was complete, but the bonds she had formed with the Orekans would remain. Zarax and Myrin saw her off at the surface. "You have our eternal gratitude," Zarax said. "If ever you find yourself in need, the Orekans will answer your call." Elena nodded, her gaze drifting to the horizon. "The universe is vast and unpredictable, but perhaps we are not as different as we believe." Her ship ascended into the dark skies, leaving behind a world transformed. Grathix Prime, once a symbol of despair, now stood as a testament to resilience and unity. The tale of the human doctor who defied the odds became legend among the Orekans. It was a story of courage and hope, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, the light of compassion as Doctor. Elena Marlow's ship disappeared into the vast expanse of space. The Orekans stood in silence, watching the trail of light fade into the dark horizon. Among them was Crix, who had been the first to receive the life-saving treatment. His mandibles clicked softly as he spoke, his voice carrying through the gathered crowd. "She has shown us what we had forgotten. Strength does not always come from within, but from the bonds we form with others." The Orekans took those words to heart. The renewed strength of their people was not just physical, but also emotional. They began to rebuild not only their homes and infrastructure, but also their culture. The plague had nearly erased their stories, songs, and traditions, but with survival came the realization that their history and unity mattered just as much as their science and technology. Elder Myrin oversaw the establishment of the Hall of Stars, a grand chamber dedicated to their savior, and the lessons she had brought them. Within its towering walls, the Orekans inscribed the story of the human doctor who had come to their aid. Her tale was told not as a fable of a distant savior, but as a reminder of the strength that can arise from hope, cooperation, and adaptability. Meanwhile, Zarax led a new initiative, the Interstellar Outreach Program. The Orekans, once isolated and wary of outside contact, now sought to explore the galaxy for conquest or resources, but for connection. They pledged to offer aid to other civilizations as Elena had done for them, forming alliances and sharing knowledge. Back on her ship, Elena allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection as she stared out at the stars. She thought about the Orekans and their resilience. Her journey to Grathix Prime had not been without sacrifice. She had pushed herself to the brink of exhaustion and faced the constant threat of failure, yet the rewards had far outweighed the costs. She leaned back in her chair, accessing her personal logs. Another species saved, another set of lives transformed. But she knew her work was far from over. The universe was vast, filled with countless worlds and endless struggles. Somewhere, another desperate cry for help might be echoing across the void. Her ship's AI interrupted her thoughts. "Dr. Marlow, we have detected a distress signal originating from the Araxis system. The signal is faint but repeating." Elena smiled wearily but determinedly. "Set a course. Let's see who needs us this time." "We dig in here," Wren ordered. "Thorn, get us a visual on those ships." Thorn's drones soared higher, capturing images of the incoming fleet. "They're armed and aggressive. We're looking at least 6 squads," he reported. Wren's mind raced. Death Worlders didn't shy away from impossible odds. But this wasn't about bravado. It was about survival and completing the mission. "Saria, take high ground. Jax, set defensive charges. Thorn, scramble their comms. We turn this into their worst nightmare." The team moved with practiced efficiency. Saria found a vantage point on a jagged outcrop, her rifle steady. Jax placed explosive traps along choke points. Thorn's fingers danced over his control pad, disrupting enemy communications. The first wave of mercenaries landed, their confidence evident. They expected a broken squad retreating from battle, not Deathworlders lying in wait. Saria's first shot pierced the silence. A mercenary dropped, and panic rippled through the ranks. Jax's charges detonated next, throwing the attackers into disarray. Ren led the counterattack. She moved like a force of nature, her blade slicing through armor and flesh. Her team followed, each member executing their role with precision. The mercenaries fell one by one, their bravado replaced with terror. The remaining ships hesitated, their commanders realizing too late what they were up against. Thorn's drones buzzed past, dropping small EMP devices that disabled their engines. The ships plummeted, crashing into the volcanic landscape. By the time their dropship arrived, the battlefield was silent. Ghost Talon boarded quickly, their mission complete. As the dropship ascended, Jax leaned back, exhaustion finally catching up to him. "So much for easy," he said with a smirk. Ren allowed herself a rare smile. "Easy or not, we did what needed to be done." Saria glanced out the viewport at the smoldering remains of Carvosate. Another enemy crushed, another message sent. The galaxy would remember this day. Deathworlders were not just soldiers. They were survival incarnate. And no mercenary, no matter how advanced, could stand a chance against them.